Hey, what's up? This is Harry Wagner from Harry's Situations, and today I want to talk to you about Nitto's new Terra Grappler G3 tire. Boring! Now I say new, but this tire's actually been out for a few months now. I'm running them on my wife's Ram diesel truck. We made a video about that, and I'm also running them on my 2006 Toyota Tundra. Full disclosure, this video is brought to you by Nitto, but you're gonna wanna keep watching because we're gonna talk a lot about tire tech and all-terrain tires in general terms, and I'm gonna drop all sorts of truth bombs about the new Terra Grappler G3. So stay with us. In general terms, as we go from an all-season to an all-terrain tire like the new Nitto Terra Grappler G3, then into a hybrid tire, something like the Nitto Ridge Grappler, and onto a mud tire like the Nitto Trail Grappler or the Mud Grappler, as we go through that progression, we tend to see bigger lugs, bigger voids, less siping, and greater tread depth. And that's a fact. So now what that does is if you're in soft terrain, something like sand, mud, snow, those real aggressive tires, they're gonna clean out and keep propelling you forward in that low traction environment to keep you moving. That all sounds great, right? But there's a trade-off there. And the trade-off is they tend to be noisy, they tend to be heavy, and they tend to have a lot of rolling resistance, which results in lower fuel economy compared to something like an all-terrain tire. It's science! You can't argue with science! Spoiler, there is no perfect tire for every situation. You're not gonna find something that sticks like glue when you're carving through the canyon, but still gets 100,000 miles. You're also not gonna find something that churns through all that mud, but then is whisper quiet on the road. So what you need to do is think about what compromises you're willing to make. What is important to you? And once you know that, you can decide what tire is best for your particular vehicle and situation. Now for me, I love all-terrain tires, and I'll admit I'm getting older. I used to run mud terrains on everything. These days, I tend to favor all-terrain tires. So why is that? Well, they are quieter, they do run smoother. I also live in the mountains. We get a lot of snow in the winter, and the siping in a tire, so siping are these little grooves, and what they do is they allow the water to escape, they allow snow and ice, you have more biting edges, so you get better traction both in braking, acceleration, and cornering. And a tire like the Terra Grappler G3 that's Three Peak Mountain Snowflake rated has sipes in all of the tread blocks. Why don't all tires have sipes? Well, the issue there is if you're in a low traction environment where you're spinning the tires, there's the potential that you can tear the lugs. A larger lug is going to be stronger just by virtue of that bigger size and the construction. So siping isn't perfect for all situations, but if you're on snowy roads, icy roads, even in the rain where you want to avoid hydroplaning, sipes are where it's at. So one of the things that makes a tire look aggressive is sidewall design. And the G3 has more aggressive sidewalls than the G2 did. These aren't typically in contact with the ground unless you're aired down in a soft environment, then this might come into play, but it is a way that makes the tire aesthetically pleasing. In typical Nitto fashion, we've got dual sidewall designs. So we've kind of got these tread blocks here, or if you're more of a Thunderbolt type of guy, then you can go with this design on this side here. You do want them all to match, well, or at least I do when I put them on my vehicle. So keep that in mind when you're mounting them up. When Nitto went from the Terra Grappler to the Terra Grappler G2, that was really an evolution. The tread blocks got a little bigger, the tread depth got bigger, but overall the design was very similar between the Terra Grappler and the G2. Now going from the G2 to the G3 is really more of a revolution than an evolution in my mind. So these tread blocks along here are similar to what we saw on the G2, but then you'll notice we've got these interlocking tread blocks in between here, and really there's nothing else on the market that's like this in my opinion. Why is that important? Well, what this does is it puts rubber in contact with the road at any given time, and that's important in order to cut down on noise. It's also really valuable if you have a high horsepower vehicle like a modern diesel truck. So diesel trucks are very difficult to make tires for. They're heavy, they usually are used to tow, and they make a ton of torque, all of which wears tires out in a hurry. I see more Nittos on heavy-duty diesel trucks than any other tire out there. So it doesn't matter if they're Chevy Duramaxes, Ford Super Duties with power strokes in them, Dodge diesels like Ion that have Cummins in them. Nittos rule the roost in this regard. And I think these tires in particular are going to be really good on diesel trucks because this is going to resist squirm when all that torque is applied. I'm really excited to be running them on my wife's truck. Once they come out in a 37 in these, I'll put them on my Ram diesel that I have the four-wheel camper in as well. So how exactly does the new Nitto Terra Grappler G3 compare to the older Nitto Terra Grappler G2? We've got both tires here. If we look, pretty big differences in tread design. These outer blocks are bigger on the G3 compared to the G2. They both have siping in them. The G2 uses these kind of zigzag shaped sipes where the G3 has straight siping in them. The voids are actually bigger. One thing that surprised me about this tire when Nitto came out with the G3 is what we've seen from other manufacturers is when they introduce a hybrid tire, which in Nitto's case would be like the Ridge Grappler, into the lineup, they tend to make their all-terrain tamer. And the thought is, well, instead of just having an all-terrain and a mud terrain, you have three choices now. But Nitto really on this tire, I mean, it still has big voids and a lot of tread depth for an all-terrain, which is great because that means it's gonna work really well off-road. If we compare tread depth between the two, we're looking at 17/32 there, and the same. So tread depth has remained the same between these two tires. Durometer is another thing we can measure. Typically an older tire is going to get harder as time goes on, so I would expect these to be harder. You get a 70 there. Oh, and actually a 72. So this new tire is actually harder than the old tire. Now that's going to be good too on those heavy diesel trucks that make a lot of torque. It's also how Nitto's able to offer a 55,000 mile tread warranty on this tire and even a 70,000 mile tread wear warranty on other metric sizes. Looking at the tread blocks, we can see here that we see these sort of 5 rows across on the G2, one after another. Where here we have our 5 rows, but then it's broken up with these 2 interlocking inner tread design. And that variable tread is really gonna help keep noise down on something like a Jeep with an open top or maybe a Ford Bronco with a removable top. Honestly, the noise is probably not a consideration. If you're driving something like, say, a Lexus GX 460 or something a little more refined and quieter like that, then probably tire noise is a consideration that you're going to want to keep in mind when you're shopping for your next set of tires. But enough about the G2. How does the new G3 compare to the Nitto Recon Grappler, you might be asking? Nitto's got a lot of tires in their lineup, and when you're shopping for your new tires, it's a pretty big expense for your vehicle, and you want to make sure you get the right thing. So the Recon Grappler, not Three Peak Snowflake rated. If you're in snowy and icy conditions, I would go with the G3. They are a little more aggressive, both in appearance and in capability. Big voids, great tread depth. So if you're doing more off-roading, I'd be more inclined to go with the Recon Grappler as opposed to the G3. If you're on the road more, and particularly if it's icy, then go with the G3. So I keep mentioning Three Peak Mountain Snowflake rating. This is a standardized rating that was instituted by the National Highway Traffic and Safety Administration. And what this does is it's a measure of how well a tire performs in snow. Now, if you live in a place like Canada, in the winter, they actually require these on vehicles. But even if you don't live there, it's a really good idea. I see so many people with sketchy tires in the winter in Tahoe, and I try and avoid them at all costs. Because even if you have four-wheel drive, you've got the best vehicle in the world. If it's on bald tires or the wrong tires, it is not going to perform well. So that's what this is a rating of, and you can be assured that these tires are going to work well in snow and ice. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you learned a thing or two about all-terrain tires and about Nitto's new Terra Grappler G3. Drop in the comments below and let me know what I should keep an eye out for as I put more miles on these tires and what you want to see next. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching this Hairy Situations video on the Driving Line channel. Driving Line has all sorts of great content creators, and they're dropping new content almost daily. You're definitely going to want to subscribe so you don't miss any of it in the future. And we'll see you out on the trail. Woo-wee! Those Nitto tires sure look good.